All right, we're here for the seventh and final round of Swiss at our $2,000 Pioneer Open RCQ Invitational Qualifier. $2,000 cash and prizes on the line. Matt, it's been a fun day so far, but we got one match left or one round left before we cash our top eight. Why don't you tell us about the match we're going to be watching, what decks we're going to be seeing?
All right, we've seen him before. Jonathan Fessmeyer on blue-white control is going to be at the first table. His opponent, Deshaun Johnson, is playing mono-white humans. This is a classic Pioneer matchup. Classic classic Magic matchup, really, right? Control against White Weenie.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was just waiting for you to stumble over your words a little bit
I got there
more.
eventually.
I
All
did,
right.
I get, I look, I did, I know that when you interrupt someone and they're stumbling, it just makes it worse, and they just tumble all the way down the hill or whatever. But
Yeah.
you recovered nicely. So, we have an aggro deck, we have a control deck, we got some top eight qualifications on the line. We have two winning ins to bring you. Everyone else, unfortunately, intentionally drawing into the top eight. So we're gonna go ahead and watch the matches that matter. So let's head on down to the feature match area and see who takes it down. All right, these players are ready to go, drawing their openers. On your left, Deshaun Johnson playing Mono White Humans. We've seen him play Mono White Hammer, I believe, in Modern, so seems like he's got a type. But
Right.
his
Oh
type right
no.
now is mulliganing to 4. A
Ugh.
disaster. But Jonathan Fesemeyer at 5-1, he was 5-0, got paired down into Corey Baumeister last round. Unfortunately, took the L. But
Right.
now couldn't draw this round because him and Deshaun both have like the worst tiebreakers of the bunch.
Yeah, something like that. And
Yeah.
Jonathan is now, trying not to show it, but maybe overjoyed at this deep mulligan from Deshaun.
Yeah, 4 cards is hard to win with, but if any deck can do it, it's Mono White Humans. They get off the ground quick and do a lot of damage.
Right. Looks like we are going to be starting with a one drop in Recruitment Officer from Deshaun. See if that can cross the finish line against this blue eye control deck.
All right, so we don't mulligan to 4 too often, Matt, but what do you think about intentionally keeping a one lander with a curve of 1-2-2, right? Thalia's Lieutenant, and the one
Sure.
drop, right? And just hoping to draw the land in 2 draws. Maybe you got to risk it for the biscuit, I don't know.
Yeah, like you said, if there's any deck that maybe wants to do that, it's mono white. You know you're going to be operating on low resources. You kind of have to high roll and get the best possible curve you can.
All right, while Fesemeyer was on the play, it's Deshaun Johnson who's off to the races and a one drop into Luminarch Aspirin. He's attacking for 3, and we're going to go back Fesemeyer's way and see if he has temporary lockdown or some other piece of interaction. I saw an Absorb hanging out, but there it is. The powerful
Wow.
enchantment blows up those 2 cards, and it's almost like he mulliganed to 3. That 2-for-1 is devastating.
That was rude, Todd. You summoned that card right into Jonathan's
I
hand.
summoned it. I just calls them like I sees them every time, and people get mad sometimes. I
Right.
do it to myself all the time on stream. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
my opponent can have this card into this card, and I'll lose like crazy, and everyone's just like, don't say that. I'm like, it's not gonna change whether or not they have it. All right.
Now, Deshaun able to rebuild a little bit with the Solly's Lieutenant plus Mutavault activation, but Jonathan follows up with a Field of Ruin, threatening to get rid of a 3/3 Mutavault.
I know he's got an absorb in him too, and this is a pretty good absorb target. This
Right.
Thalia Garden of Thraben, a bit disruptive for Fesemeyer, and that extra life is a pretty juicy target here. And we see that absorb, eat it, gain 3 back up to 20. We got a land though. Here comes Mutavault, right down Mutavault lane.
Yeah, and Jonathan with a full grip here, it's hard to imagine he won't be able to get answers to these threats with more than enough time to close out the game eventually.
All the Storm Giants is the play for Fesemeyer. That does enter tapped, and we're back to Sean's way. We have 2 Mutavaults, so it can be fired up. If a land is drawn for the turn, we still have action. If a spell is drawn, we can play spell and maybe activate one of the Mutavaults. Deshaun going to go for both Mutavaults and a big swing. Field of Ruin here, likely going to take out the Mutavault, but instead, it's the Wandering Emperor, and this is going to straight up eat the Mutavault. I would have loved to have seen Fesemeyer go make a 2/2 and eat the Thalia's Lieutenant and get
Oof.
a better board position, and then he could use the 2 tokens to double block the 3/3 Mutavault or blow it up with the Field of Ruin while having those 2/2s that check the board really nicely.
Right. Jonathan maybe not super worried about getting the most out of his cards, looking at an opponent with nothing in hand. And we'll see if this Wandering Emperor is going to stick around or just turn into a samurai.
All right. Well, here comes the 2/2. Gonna be throwing his body in front of these creatures from Deshaun Johnson. Nice little 2-for-1. Absorb Memory Deluge at the ready for Fesenmeyer. If Deshaun doesn't play anything threatening, Deluge looking to bury Deshaun in card advantage.
I don't know. Kind of seems to me that he's already buried in card advantage.
Well, when you mold a 4, that's a happening.
That's right. All right. Mutavault. Valiant Mutavault. Trying its best. And here's a Dauntless Bodyguard. Gonna try to force action out of Jonathan.
Gonna go ahead and absorb it. Gain 3. And now Mutavault, do you trade with the 2/2? I guess so. Or you could, if you're Fesenmeyer, you can just go ahead and blow it up. I like that play as well.
Easy peasy. And a lone 1/1 up against a 5-card hand or something like that for Jonathan.
One of which is a Memory Deluge.
Right, and this samurai is going to start turning the corner against a lone 1/1.
Alrighty, well, let's go back Fesenmeyer's way. Unfortunately for Deshaun Johnson, on top of the Mulligan 4, has flooded quite a bit. Normally, the flood not so bad with the 2 Mutavaults, but one got eaten and the other one got blown up. Now just a bunch of planes. Here comes Hall the Storm Giant.
Wow.
We're going to get aggro, and we're going to smash. Here's a big attack for 9. And Deshaun's like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to race that. I'm just going to go ahead and pack it in. That temporary lockdown, just a little too much for him to handle after those mini mulligans. Now, as these players are shuffling up and sideboarding here for game number 2, I'm going to throw it over to my main man, Matt, and he's going to tell you all about their sideboards and what he thinks he's going to bring in his expert analysis.
Right, so Deshaun Johnson's going to be coming back on the play, try to get these last 2. In his Mono White Human sideboard, we see 4 Portable Hole, 4 Redain God of the Worthy, 4 Wedding Announcement, and 3 Rest in Peace. Definitely going to be looking for these wedding announcements to try to grind through the game and start spitting out tokens that are, we're going to have to see some resources dedicated by this control deck to dealing with just those wedding announcement tokens. And that's going to be how Deshaun tries to get some card advantage against the blue-white deck.
Now, I do quite like Raidain against these decks because it's 3 drops, so it dodges the temporary lockdowns, but then it also makes Deluge, Emperor, Teferi, Farewell, Supreme Verdict, all these big expensive things cost 2 more, sometimes just locks you out of the game, especially with a Thalia Garden of Thraben down as well.
Right. And now, turning it over to the other side of the table, Jonathan Fesenmeyer's blue-white control sideboard. We see those 3 Legionary Angels acting as their own wish board, 1 Hullbreaker Horror, 1 Dovin's Veto, 1 Elspeth Sun's Champion, 2 Mystical Dispute, 2 Divine Smite, 2 Rest in Peace, 1 Lyra Dawnbringer, 1 Fateful Absence, and 1 more Temporary Lockdown. So definitely going to be looking to board in more copies of that Temporary Lockdown. Also, Lyra Dawnbringer, pretty good clock, can turn the corner against Mono White. Elspeth Sun's Champion as well. If Jonathan can land one of those, you can almost be assured that Deshaun is going to be boarding out Brave the Elements, and those 3/1/1 tokens a turn are going to absolutely close the door if Jonathan is able to land an Elspeth.
Yeah. Those 6 drops, like, they have a very serious impact on the game, right? But getting to them is occasionally difficult, and even through the disruption that Deshaun has can make it even more tedious to cast them. But if they do stick Elspeth, I mean, look, it's a 6-mana Planeswalker. Of course it's going to bury you. But Deshaun Johnson, like you said, Deshaun doesn't have the tools in his deck to fight back against the Elspeth. Normally, does have Brave the Elements, but likely siding out Brave the Elements because he's more afraid of sweeper effects than he is targeted removal.
Exactly. That's one of the easier spots when you're looking to take out some cards for those wedding announcements and Redains if you're Deshaun.
All right.
And not another mulligan for the Mono White Human deck.
Look, you got to do what you got to do. Your hand ain't good, you throw it back. Let the mulligan change the game. You got to have a curve these days. If you ain't curving out, you ain't playing Magic.
Right, and Jonathan very comfortably sitting on a 7-card hand here, hopefully with the tools he needs to secure that top 8.
I see an Absorb. Counterspells generally get sided out in this matchup, but Absorb is usually good enough because it gives you a little bit of life buffer as well against these aggro decks. On the draw, it's a bit weaker, especially if your draw has something like a Field of Ruin and you might not have time to activate it, and Absorb isn't really a turn 3 play, but more of a turn 4 play.
Right. Let's see if Deshaun likes this mulliganed hand. There we go. Card on the bottom. Only six, as many as 6 cards for Deshaun.
All right, here we go. I see a wedding announcement, but no 1-drop. That 2 1-on-1 deals so much damage against Azorius control sometimes that you have to imagine Deshaun was definitely looking for that when he was mulliganing his 7-card hand. 2 mana here. We got Thal's Lieutenant, nothing to buff, but it'll get big itself. We got Glacial Fortress for Fezemeyer and a passing of the turn.
We do see that Elspeth in Fessmeyer's hand. And coming back to Deshaun's side, this is a kind of an underrated Thalia's Lieutenant mode. If you can play it on turn 2 and then just start charging it up rather than the other way around. And Deshaun is going to try to slam this wedding announcement on turn 3.
Fezemeyer doesn't have the answer. No Jawar Disruption, no Censor, no Dovin's Veto. Probably not in the deck is Dovin's Veto. And here we go. Wedding announcement in a turn. You're going to make a 1-1. That's going to grow the Thalia's Lieutenant. And for the next few turns, we're going to be getting that pressure down. And then once it transforms, everything gets a +1/+1. The backside is so strong, you know, it just gives everyone +1/+1 after creating those 3 tokens or drawing some cards.
Right, and we saw Jonathan had that Absorbent hand. Now able to cast it, but is the damage already done?
Do you even want to cast a spell if you're Deshaun? Do you just lean into attack? Do you attack with both, or do you only attack with one? I know that I pretty regularly chose to attack with fewer creatures with Wedding Announcement in order to generate an extra body, especially when you're trying to pressure a control deck.
Right. And Deshaun, you know, has options at this point, despite the mulligan. Definitely a card that can let him crawl back into it in Wedding Announcement. But also, you know, casting creatures here, growing the Thalia's Lieutenant, especially if you're able to cast multiple creatures to get around 1 copy of Absorb.
All right, says combat moves to swing. Jonathan Fezemeyer takes the 3 damage down to 16, and now Deshaun Johnson, if he moves to the end step, will draw a card off of the Wedding Announcement. It looks like he actually picked up another Wedding Announcement, but does he want to run this into Absorb? I think the answer is no. He's really sniffing it out here, and he's looking to play something else, but pulls the Wedding Announcement to the front, really thinking about it.
Yeah. You know, not to be dramatic, but life is kind of on the line here for the top 8. Goes for the Thalia instead.
See if Fezemeyer is worried enough about this to bite. Probably will absorb it if I had to guess.
Right. Thalia is the kind of card that you can't really rely on sweeping up with the Wrath if she's keeping your Wraths from being cast at all.
Right. And something like Temporary Lockdown is good, but not great here. We got to make sure that this is a card drawn here. Let's go stop the... Okay, they're fixing it. All right, cool. So, Wedding Announcement is going to draw a card instead of making a 1/1 because we did attack with 2 creatures. That is the extra clause on it. We're going to go back Fezemeyer's way. High life total thanks to Absorb. And for no 1-drop from Deshaun, here's land number 4. Fezemeyer might want to play a Verdict here, but it seems pretty loose. Might want to just try to ambush with Wandering Emperor or cast Memory Deluge since his life total is so high.
Right. You know, the Absorb did its work, and wow, Supreme Verdict here, setting Deshaun all the way back, but really is going to allow him to resolve this other copy of Wedding Announcement.
Yep.
Kind of working out in Deshaun's favor is a Supreme Verdict.
All right, so hand looks like Thalia, Thal's Lieutenant, Wedding Announcement. I want to say...
Recruitment Officer.
Yep. And we have Recruitment Officer plus Wedding Announcement as the sequence for this turn.
This is
great
the
turn.
best possible reload for Deshaun, really.
Yeah, so we're going to get another token. It's going to be a 2/2, and we're going to get another token from the second Wedding Announcement. So we got 7 power on the battlefield, one of which can start drawing more cards. And after you cast a Supreme Verdict, you have to imagine if you're Fezemeyer that this is pretty scary, unless you're building towards specifically Farewell.
Right. We'll see if Jonathan is able to mount a resistance. You'll notice mostly jockeying for board position. Jonathan's still sitting at a healthy life total, but Teferi, Hero of Dominaria here, probably not going to be long for this world.
Yeah, we can plus untap 2 lands, maybe play some sort of 2-mana removal spell, dig deeper into the deck, looking to play Farewell next turn. Minusing on any of the cards in play doesn't seem that great, so yeah, we're just going to draw a card and kind of throw Teferi away. I wouldn't be surprised if Deshaun just ignores it, but my guess is he'll just send everything at it and try to kill it.
Right. You learn pretty quick playing against Teferi that that's one of the easier ways to lose is just deciding, you know, I can win this game with a Teferi in play.
Opponent's at 19. I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm all right.
Yeah.
I think I'll just ignore it.
See, Deshaun weighing his options here. Excuse me, I might have said recruitment officer. Oh no, that's a new card drawn was a Dauntless Bodyguard here.
Dauntless Bodyguard is decent against effects like Supreme Verdict. Pretty mediocre against Farewell. Alright, so I like this attack. 5 at Teferi, 2 at face. Phasemeyer might have a removal spell to protect the Teferi, but doesn't. So we do get in that extra 2 damage. At the end of turn, we are going to draw 1 card from the wedding announcement that's still active. And it looks like that's what we're going to do. Just going to move to the end of turn and draw. And we're going to activate the recruitment officer and not overextend into a sweeper effect.
And that attack step there, Deshaun choosing to send 2 of the damage at Jonathan, potentially opening himself up if Jonathan had a removal spell to the Teferi staying on the battlefield, but he is completely fine with pressuring Jonathan's hand like that. And if Jonathan wants to trade a removal spell for one of these creatures, Deshaun would be perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, and he would just play some more stuff. Here's the Elspeth Sun's
Here
Champion.
we go.
We're putting you to the test, okay? You said that if it came down, it would be impossible to beat. How about 2 wedding announcements? All my creatures have +2/+2, and I have a boatload of tokens and a handful of gas.
You
We're
know,
gonna see.
there's only so much charge left on these wedding announcements. Only 1 more creature coming out. Establishing an Elspeth, blocking for it on this turn, and then following that up with the Wrath would completely lock it up for Jonathan. As it stands, all we're going to be able to do is block for the Elspeth, but not trade anything away.
All right, so recruitment officer spins, finds Dawes Lieutenant. We got some big things. If Phasemeyer has a sweeper effect next turn, it's going to be pretty bad for Deshaun, probably game ending. But if he doesn't have the sweeper, you know, we're going to be treading water against the 3 tokens a turn unless we overextend a bit. And then if we do overextend again, back broken by a sweeper.
Exactly. That's definitely a great role for Elspeth to play here is inducing that overextension from Deshaun.
Now, when I say overextend, can you tell the people at home what I mean by that? Because for some people who are newer to the game, the concept of overextending into a sweeper effect might not be something they're overly familiar with.
Right, so if Deshaun wants to get around these tokens, the 3 creatures he has in play right now are only really treading water, like you said. Adding more creatures to the board would be a good way to get around that, but the more creatures Deshaun adds, the better Jonathan's sweeper is going to be because Deshaun will have that many fewer resources available post Supreme Verdict or post Farewell. And we see Deshaun choosing to take this line, putting on maximum pressure on the Elspeth with Adeline and Dauntless Bodyguard.
All right, these 3 creatures are attacking. We're going to get a token from the Adeline. It is a 2/2 from the wedding announcement transformed. All these creatures likely going at Elspeth to try to chop it down. 2 damage is going to go to the Elspeth, or 4 damage is going to go to the Elspeth. You know, not sure how exactly he wants to block.
All right, and I keep mentioning Farewell. Being able to exile all these permanents really would be the best case scenario here for Jonathan, especially with that Dauntless Bodyguard coming down. Supreme Verdict is maybe not going to be quite enough, but, you know, I think combined with Elspeth, that would also do it.
Yeah, so Elspeth down to 3. And Deshaun can draw a card during the inset with the wedding announcement. And Dauntless Bodyguard can protect from Verdict on just the Adeline.
Right, and I really think this is working out pretty well for the Elspeth here, assuming Jonathan does have a way to reset anything, because these wedding announcements kind of guarantee that any single creature Deshaun plays is a threat, but infinite chump blockers on a +1 is a great tool against double wedding announcement.
Definitely. One of the reasons I'm sure why it's in the deck. Here's
Wow.
a temporary lockdown, and this takes away everything except the Adeline. The tokens disappear forever, and we have the recruitment officer and the Dauntless Bodyguard going to be going underneath that temporary lockdown, and then Elspeth's going to tick up and just play defense forever. It's going to be very hard for Deshaun to come back from this. You called it in sideboarding. You said Elspeth, Sun's Champion. Can we get Elspeth, Sun's Champion on the screen? I don't know if we did it already, but Elspeth, Sun's Champion. The 6-mana Planeswalker originally from Theros was a phenom in its standard format. It was the top end that won games in Esper Control. And here's another removal spell. March of the Otherworldly Light, and Adeline is no more. Elspeth's going to tick up and make 3 tokens. But I digress. Elspeth Sun's champion. Excellent finisher. So hard to beat. It sees very little play in Pioneer, but every time it comes down, it's just heater after heater after heater.
Right. And we see Jonathan, I think he's an Elspeth fan. He's got a variety of soldier tokens there, making sure each one of them has a little unique personality.
Okay, buddy.
Look, I'm a token lover. What
That's
can I
fine.
say?
Look, I know you're a token lover. I know that your collectorship knows no bounds.
Yeah, we are on Deshaun's side, those human tokens, Ravnica Allegiance, a nice little choice. But, anything Deshaun deploys here, sure, they're 4-3s. This is a 4-3 Thalia. Don't see that too often, but it's really not going to have much effect against Elspeth.
Yep, these two wedding announcements are transformed. The backside's what? Wedding
Festivity.
Wedding festivity. So +1/+1, but that doesn't really do anything in the face of infinite chum blockers. We're about to tick up to 6. And while Deshaun Johnson likely has Brave the Elements in his 75, probably doesn't have any in his 60 after sideboard because of how weak it is against sweeper effects. But here, I bet he just wish he had access to one so bad.
Right. That's even if Jonathan would ever let Deshaun build up enough of a board presence to get through.
And that's always got to be in the back of his mind too, right? Even, there's always a threat. Even if you don't think it's there, there's always a chance that it's there, and you have to always be thinking about it.
Maybe Deshaun kept it in to counter March of Otherworldly Light.
Maybe.
Something like that.
Portable hole, something like that. I don't know. Anywho, Fezemeyer plays the Hall of the Storm Giants.
What we could do here? At some point, if this Elspeth wants to minus, this double wedding festivity is pumping most of Deshaun's creatures above that 4 power threshold for Elspeth.
True.
So Jonathan really might not need any more cards from hand to win this matchup in the face of with the help of Elspeth.
That's a powerful planeswalker when you can literally put your hand face down on the table and just say up, 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 down, up, 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 down. And that's all you gotta do to win the game. It's basically what's happening right now.
Deshaun working it out, doing some combat math. Somehow I think Jonathan's just going to be throwing away some tokens because they're coming right back into play next turn.
Oh yeah, we're going block, 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 and then we're gonna go minus, and then we're gonna go block, 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 and then we're gonna minus.
Right.
All right. Counter here, another counter there. Do. Everything's huge. Yep. 3 tokens. Bite the dust. Big deal.
Plus, if we only see 3 tokens blocking, and this Elspeth ends up minusing, those 3 tokens will still be there, surviving the Elspeth, blocking for it next turn.
Also has an Otawara in hand. Interesting. Don't know if that'll matter anytime soon, but it could be saving grace at some point. Do we tick up or down? Down.
Boom.
Bang.
4 mana. Recruitment officer.
Okay, I thought we were playing protect all my creatures from a Wrathafact or something, right? Like Fierce Guardian or whatever it is, the 3/2 flash. Protects everything.
Yeah. Guardian.
I don't know.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
But no, just trying to get some cards that will also do nothing against Elspeth.
All right.
Oh, like that one.
Hopeful Initiate. Well, at least Hopeful Initiate might be able to blow up Temporary Lockdown 16 turns from now.
Yeah, and get back another card that does nothing against Elspeth.
Look, I'm on your side here, okay? But
yeah.
I'm rooting for Deshaun, so I'm trying to find the routes to victory. As long as we're in the game, as long as both players are participating. And we're going to attack.
Getting in there.
Love it. Feel like attack with Hall of the Storm Giant probably deserves to be in there too. Oh, that's right. It's a 3/3. Womp womp. Take one.
Take one. Yeah, Jonathan, has that emergency Otawara you talked about, just in case Deshaun wants to play maybe a Brutal Cathar, get rid of this token, and hope to get rid of the Elspeth.
I mean, he's got Hall of the Storm Giants to block too, huh?
Yeah, really plenty of resources. I think I might have even spotted Legion Angel.
Well, you know what they say, where there's one Legion Angel, there's certainly another. And
yeah.
Here it's going to go digging through the sideboard for another copy of itself. We have the 1 in the main deck, and we have 3 in the board, and so they chain together quite nicely. This card is really strange because you have incentive to only play 1, maybe 2 in your main deck.
Right.
And then 1 or 2 in your sideboard, so it gums up a little bit of your sideboard space on top of being, just something you don't want to play 4 of in your main deck just by nature of its design.
Right. Looks like Jonathan has crafted game plan here. Got down that impactful Elspeth minus, and then slams 2 Legion Angels to just get the game over with. Uh, yeah, after minusing the Elspeth, I really don't see a way out of this for Deshaun,
Yeah, I don't need it.
unfortunately.
We'll play it out though. Here's Thal's Lieutenant. How many times you played a game of Magic out? You thought you couldn't win, and then all of a sudden your opponent does something, and then maybe you can win. I mean, I assume this happened to you a bunch of times.
Yeah, most of those times though, Elspeth Sun's champion was on the other side.
That's fair.
This is
Yeah.
you
So,
can kind of tell what Jonathan's gonna be doing for the rest of this game, and yeah, I mean,
all right. Well, Deshaun has the option to use this hopeful initiative to blow up the temporary lockdown to get back the recruitment officer, but doesn't really bust through the tokens or the Legion Angel. Fesmeyer has a stranglehold on this game. If you watch mixed martial arts, MMA, this is the sleeper hold. This is the hammer lock. You ain't getting out of this one, son.
and Deshaun may be thinking about committing a little more into this board. Maybe Jonathan leaves shields down at just the wrong time.
All right, well, we'll see. You know, I actually have the perfect emote for this situation on my channel.
What's that?
It's a 2x and it just vibrates, right?
Ah,
And it's when we're watching YouTube, we can hit 2x so we fast forward through the match because we're in garbage time.
exactly.
Garbage time is maybe like my favorite sports term. It translates so well to Magic.
Right.
And, I just remember hearing like P. Sully one time on coverage use it, and I just thought, oh wow, that's so perfect.
Yeah, it's exactly where we are right now. Just watching this Elspeth get down to business.
I got some paint. You want to go watch paint dry?
You know, I'll take it. What are the odds when this match is over? We have a backup match to get to.
Well, I saw him leave, so 0%. So this is all we
Alright.
got until the top 8 starts, and we still got 24 minutes left in the round. We might have
Yeah.
to fill a little bit, but we might take an elongated break while we get the top 8 situated.
And we talked earlier about overcommitting into a board wipe from Deshaun's side. Jonathan has no such concerns. It's just going to keep slamming these Legion Angels and end the game very shortly.
All right, we're going to blow up temporary lockdown. It's going to get back this here recruitment officer. It's going to put some counters back on there. And we got Legion Angel and 4 tokens to block. We got Odawar in hand. Deshaun Johnson, not even a Brave the Elements can save him. A couple of creatures in hand, can go ahead and play both if he wants. No real good attacks, no real good defensive plays. These Flying Legion Angels are going to close the game as early as next turn. I know that Deshaun's not at 19. He should be at around 11, I think.
There we go.
Yeah, and then the 3 Legion Angel attacks are going to be killer, and so the game should be over.
You know, actually, speaking of the Elspeth, these wedding announcements are a pretty good tool at combating it in some games. If Jonathan had nothing going on and wasn't able and wouldn't have been able to have a follow-up Supreme Verdict, then it's possible Deshaun is able to assemble enough of these creatures to actually get around the soldiers. But the Legion Angels for Jonathan, making sure he can actually get the game over with in a reasonable amount of time and not allow Deshaun any avenue back into it.
Right. All right, so Elspeth at 3. We played Athalia, boosted up our Athal's lieutenants. Now we're going to send everybody at the Elspeth a desperation ploy to try to kill it, but we got 4 token blockers. All 4 of those tokens are just going to throw themselves in front of these 4 attackers so that our Legion Angels can cross the finish line next turn. All right, here we go. Blocking time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I count 4. Just block. Just block.
There we go.
Thank you.
All of them, please.
Yeah. Deshaun extends the hand in 3, 2, 1. Hey, I called it.
You
All
got
right.
it.
That is 2-0. Jonathan Fesemeyer, who started 5-0, has a real tough time making it into the elimination rounds. But lost to Corey Baumeister last round, moving to 5-1. Couldn't draw. Was the lone 5-1 table that couldn't. I don't know why I'm leaning back so good. I was just relaxing watching that game. Sorry about that. All right. But yeah, a really awesome, match there. We saw Elspeth Sun's champion
Yeah,
do its thing, and I think that that's one of the coolest cards that's ever been made. And we
right.
watched it just dominate that mono white deck, and it was fun to watch. We got to see all the pieces of it too. The -3, the +1. We didn't get to see the ultimate. The ultimate happens sometimes, but
Yeah, maybe if Jonathan doesn't have those Legion Angels, we do get to see a game with the ultimate. But really, that was a battle of the sideboard cards, right? Deshaun drew his wedding announcements.
Yep.
Jonathan drew his Elspeth, and the Elspeth won the day.
yeah, absolutely. And you called it in the sideboard, so good job on that. I call it the expert analysis for a reason. That's why he's here. If he was bad at Magic, he wouldn't be sitting here. I'll tell you that much for free. So
Appreciate that.
we have a lot of time before the next round, but if all of our matches end, we're going to be starting the top 8 as soon as possible. We got 3 matches left for you, the top 8, and these players are going to be playing for their fair share, $2,000 in cash and prizes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this medium break.